okay?
Hey, we're here this afternoon, bank holiday weekend with Ranty. Hello, Ranty.
Hey. How's it going?
Just to let everybody know that me and Ranty, this is our first real meeting, and yeah, we've never had a hangout before, even though we're truthers.
Well, that's kind of true. I mean, I remember years ago when you were doing the Sun and Moon group back then, and you used to do your streams of an evening, and you'd have 70 or 80, sometimes 100 people watching, and you had a panel full of, half a dozen people at certain times. And I was always on the outside looking in. And I think at the time there was a few people that I knew that used to come in, etc. And yeah, I mean, yeah. So that's about it,
Yeah, I
really.
remember you coming in. We've had the odd message to each other, but then they took my channel last year. They took that channel. It was nearly 10,000 and they took it. But Sun and Moon still goes. I usually put just hangouts on there now. But that's what goes on there. But I have another channel, the Unscrambled channel, where I have a voice. So I talk a lot more on there, and it took me to this case, and that case is relevant in today. But yeah, I started breaking down the footage and looking at things, and we're just run by a bunch of cartoons as far as I can see. None of it's real.
No. Well, I mean, what do you think's going on in the world right now? I mean, what's the script? What's your view of all this that's going on? I mean, were you prepared for this lockdown and stuff?
Well, do you know something? We've been talking about this for a long time, no matter who it is, whether you're with the bigger channel or the smaller people, it doesn't matter. We were all talking about it, and we've got here and nobody knows what to do.
Well,
I myself have been a rebel and have been up to London a few times. I haven't kept to it, but when you're a truther, you stay at home a lot more. We're on our computers, we're making videos, we're having hangouts. So we're home a lot more anyway. And to be honest, I'm not being horrible, but out there, the globe world, I don't really like it. There's lots of angry, narcissistic people. So I stay at home a lot more. So this lockdown wasn't as bad for me, but it's just the fact that you're not allowed to go out. Those words put on top changed it for me. But I try and put out as much truth as possible, even if, like the other day, a really good channel put out a video with a minister. But what it is someone said that's fake. He's a deep fake. That minister, the rancher, sorry, was a deep fake. And they were saying, why are you putting this on your channel? But that's the point. We want the truth. We're fed up of the lies. So the channel's a good channel. She picked a video where they're telling us all this information, and it could have been deep fake video. But it's good just to get the information out there. That's what I think. People can make their own minds up.
Well, yeah, I mean, there's a big thing going around, isn't it, about what Alex Jones is up to? I mean, a lot of people think that 90% of what he says is bang on, but 10% isn't. 10%'s holding everything back. So yeah,
don't they say
thing.
that about David Icke as well? Really, the same thing.
Yeah, but then again, is it just a conspiracy that they're saying that this is a conspiracy? When you start looking into that and saying that, oh well, who are the people telling you that David Icke and Alex Jones are withholding 10% of the information? So are they the psyop inside of the psyop? I mean, you could go down this rabbit hole
But
forever.
we do
couldn't
know
you?
that in our truth community, there are probably people working for the government, and we don't know, and you won't know who they are, and you'll think they're truthers.
Well, yeah, I mean, I suppose that's true. I mean, you got to look at who, where the trajectory of the person has come from. Did they start off with a small channel and go very big very quickly? Who are they linked to? All that kind of stuff.
Yeah, we
There's
have
a
to
lot of
be a
people
bit
that are
more
taking the slow
cautious,
road.
don't we? But I
Yeah.
mean, you've got a good reputation, Ranty. You have.
Thank you very much. I'm glad of that. I've worked hard to get the channel to where it is. It's taken a lot of blood, sweat, and tears, and being truthful the whole way. I've never tried to lie about anything. In fact, I've never lied about anything. I've just gone ahead and just done my own stream, my own. I've taken the flak because I've gone out and I've showed apparent curvature or apparent boats going over the horizon, whichever way you choose to take it. But I did that because I knew that this is reality. This is what we need to look into. You can't just show the goods. Even though I can go out and I can see 20 miles shore to shore. Well, what's the point of that if you don't understand the other days when you go and you
One
see
thing that
things hidden?
truthers have learned is that even if you didn't know it before, it makes you learn the globe system so that you can have to say it back, because these people are going to ask questions. So you know more about the globe than you did before.
Oh yeah, I mean, I think from the research that I've done and how I've gone about actually doing it is that it's forced me to not just sit back and say I have an observation of 20 miles and then just sit there and live off it for the rest of my life. I can, I've shown the good, the bad, the ugly, and it's forced me to understand so much about observations over water, all the different things that go into that, the shoaling effect, the swell, all
It's
this
a
kind of stuff.
matrix, isn't it? Just even the one subject, because it's layer upon layer, and you've got to basically become a professional. The truthers are becoming the scientists. We're the one, it's what's happening.
Yeah, and that's it. And you've hit it spot on the head there. I mean, everything from understanding the inferior mirage, which used to be what the globers would call where the curvature of the Earth used to start. I mean, that's been taken
Yeah,
away from
I
him.
talked to someone. Do you know him? He's Wide Awake.
Yes, yeah.
I love Wide Awake.
Yeah, I mean, there's a few truthers that are looking into these kind of phenomena that actually happen. And the globers, it's just for them, it's just one thing, and that's just Earth curve. Everything's just Earth curve. But as truthers, we like to understand nature and how these things work. The topography of the land underneath the water has an effect on the water. When they try to put us in a side-on view and they say, if you've got a flat Earth, well, is it really, or is that the case? Do you get this shoaling effect that happens over water? Is water
It is a
actually
strange
flat?
thing we live in, though, isn't it? Because under the water is concave, the sky is convex, and we're not. So it's all a bit, yeah, it's quite a lot to understand. And I just don't think enough research is being done. I know you are, but I'm just saying generally enough research is being done on the place we live. We're sort of stuck right now.
Yeah, well, I think there's a lot of people that like to listen to people that do the research. I don't think there's enough people actually going out and doing the research or dedicating themselves to one particular topic. Me, myself, I've stuck on one topic and I've never deviated on that for 5 years. So it's quite evident that if I had gone in a different direction and been a jack of all trades and a master of none, I might have had a little bit of knowledge of this and a little bit of knowledge of that, but we still wouldn't have any answers. What I've been able to do with this channel is get real answers, real truth out there.
Do you want to say your channel?
Yeah, it's just Ranty at the minute, Ranty. That's dead easy to find. But if you actually type in Ranty, follow it up with Flat Earth, you'll still find the channel there, because my original name was Ranty Flat Earth. I removed the Flat Earth from it around about 2 months ago. It was just easier for me because I'm doing my shows now. When people are trying to type messages to me because the stream's rampant, I'm getting a couple of hundred people in there and it's lit up. I can't. Everybody's typing. People were just typing Ranty. So
Did you find that when they changed the algorithm last year? I mean, my Unscrambled channel was starting to, the videos were becoming viral. I was getting like 100,000 views. And then because I was going against the narrative, suddenly when those algorithms came in last year, they flatlined the channel, basically. It flatlined.
yeah.
And that channel is a monetized one, so you get to see a lot more of the logistics of everything. I don't, you probably can on the other one, but I was watching it, and they just flatlined me. But I've carried on because the truth is the most important thing.
Of course it is. Yeah, I mean, but if you
But even one of these videos, I saw it say 131,000. It now says 106. So they keep taking the views off, and that post is probably at 200 or maybe 300,000. Really?
Yeah, they like to mess around with stuff like that. They like to try and remove your views on it so it doesn't look as popular. They will take the likes and the dislikes and they'll mess around with them. And it's also finding it.
And they send bots in now. Like this guy kept coming in and he'd always put, even if it was a woman, that was good, dude. And then people started writing comments. He's a bot. And that's YouTube probably. And even when you delete him, he comes back.
Yeah, there's a lot of people out there with a lot of different sock accounts. So, I mean, I've had it myself. I mean, impersonations of yourself or anything like that. But there's so many people out there with hundreds of, bot accounts kind of.
You know what happens to me, Ranty? I know that you might be very different, but I treat people with respect. I talk to a lot of people, but if you're rude, you're deleted. That's it. I'm zero tolerance for bad behaviour. We don't need it. We should, you know, we should be awake. We know what respect's all about. That's what I think. And if these people are rude or they start insulting me, they get blocked. I don't even talk to them. So I don't get a problem on the channel now, Unscrambled and Sun and Moon. Most people are what they are, so they come in on that one. But I don't take bad behaviour myself.
Yeah, I mean, I used to be that way, and then I was the other way, and then I was the other way, and then you know, you've got to try and sort of like get a happy medium. So I have a very small moderation group now, because what had happened is there was a rogue moderator in the that I'd given the moderation to, and they had, you know, behind my back, they'd literally gone ahead and blocked over 700 of my subscribers.
Yeah, I sometimes wonder when I try and do the same thing. Most people are moderators. You know, when they come on and they stay in the chat room for a few hours or a few times, I think, right, okay, they're no problem. So I put them as moderators. So on my channels, most people are moderators.
Well, here's the other thing. So because I do want to hear the voice of the opposition, and I'm happy for them to disagree with it in chat. But if they're a moderator, they can say all the swear words in the world. But if they're not moderated, then they are literally held back from what they can say. So the chat is cleaner with them not being all moderated.
But I do understand what you mean. In the past, I'd had someone that was doing the same thing. They were progressing how wonderful and a great mod they were. But other people could see that they were deleting their chat rooms.
Yeah. Well, this is, you know, I've had to rearrange everything about a week and a half ago. So I'm not gonna, you know, you just gotta know who you can trust. And I'm keeping a very close eye on that. And you know, if it works for you, having everyone a moderator.
Yeah, it's not good though, is it? You know, we like to say we're the truth community, and look what we've got to go through.
But then again, like you say, I mean, if somebody disagrees with somebody else, a lot of people can be trigger happy. You know, oh well, I'll just ban them.
I don't mind people disagreeing, but you know, if you're going to insult me on my channel, I'm not very happy about that. You know, I just think that we live. You know, if we know the truth, we wouldn't talk to. Excuse me, my dog. Floss, shut up. My daughter's just come back. The dog wants to go and see, don't you, Floss? You always want to be involved in everything, don't you? Sorry, my dog's the size of a rabbit, but has the personality of a Great Dane.
All right.
She doesn't realise she's that small.
Well, here's what I found.
I just like everybody getting on. You know, I put loads of hearts all over everything on my channel. My whole point is that we get on.
Yeah. Well, here's what I found, that the trolls wear themselves out. So if you have a troll in there that calls you a name and wants to go after you, they're not going to spend the entire 3 or 4 hour live stream constantly calling me out, and they're going to get tired eventually, and then they just crack on and start talking to other people, and then they forget about it and move on. To me, it's more of a water off a duck's back, because I'm hosting a show. I'm trying to actually move this forward and try and get to the nitty gritty of every individual subject, Coriolis or whatever, get the best of the best, arguing against that, the best from the globe against the best from the flat.
But not even that one's a load of rubbish, isn't it? The Corolla, I can't say it.
Coriolis.
That's it. Coriolis effect was only made for the globe.
Yeah.
If you don't have a globe, it doesn't work.
Exactly, it doesn't work anyway. Nobody sees it. Nobody actually, you know, there's no way of actually verifying it. You don't see a plane flying towards you and then suddenly you're varying off from underneath of it, you know, moving underneath the plane. That just doesn't happen.
The whole point of that is that to get to Australia, it would be having to slowly go round, you know, like do a round, go round and round and flip round. You never ever see anything like that. It's ridiculous.
Yeah, but they're going to come around and say, well, the atmosphere is attached to the Earth. Well, if the atmosphere is attached to the Earth, then where's the Coriolis?
It'd be like going on a roller coaster ride. It'd be like going on the Star Trek journey.
Yeah.
Whoosh!
Yeah, it's almost in lockstep with the Earth, they'll say, you know, and it just floats along with it. Oh, yeah, of course it does. Yeah, because gravity just pulls it all like nobody. Yeah, it's just total nonsense. We all know that.
But we've been very programmed, and you know, even me, you know, sometimes I know that I probably shouldn't have the sugar. You start knowing all these things, but I can't change everything overnight. But as long as your consciousness changes, you know, I think that's the main thing, really. Well,
the best way to handle it is to turn it back on them. You see, they for years have said, "Oh, we've got all the scientific proof. You know, we can prove this." You know, when you actually hold the toast to the fire and you ask for this scientific proof, you know, formulated by a scientific method.
Do you find, Ranty, the more you wake up, right? So say you've got a scientist or some something, say 20 years ago, you'd have been listening to them and you'd have been going, wow. And now when you listen to them, they don't say anything. They just talk gobbledygoo.
Yeah, I mean, if you watch that Bill Nye video of the parrot of the boat going over the curvature, how that little model, nobody ever sees that in reality. That just doesn't happen. Nobody sees a boat go over the curve, right? But they'll tell you that that's what you should see. But you never see that, ever. Never, ever see that.
Do you know the annoying thing with it is, though, is that we have this 360 eyesight. That doesn't help, does it? Our own eyesight is the one thing that's blocking us, because everything is flat with mountains and things in it, or hills, or whatever it is, valleys, seas. But our eyesight fools us. Our own eyesight.
Exactly, and we've got a limit to how far we can see. We've got a limit to the resolution that the eyeball can see, and every camera in the world will have a limit to how far it can see and what resolution it can pick up. Even the best camera in the world, if you're at sea level, may only be able to see as far as, let's say, 60 miles. Let's just say that as a broad scale, and after that, then everything starts to fall into one pixel. You could have a whole house that would fit into one pixel, and you could have a tree next to it that would also be in the same pixel. So how can you differentiate what's the tree and what's the house? So all that information gets lost. So eventually things start to disappear from the bottom up. It's as simple as that. You haven't got bionic eyes and you can't see forever.
Do you know something, Ranty? I went to what's called Silbury Hill, and Silbury Hill is a pyramid. But what it was is we'd actually parked the car in the car park, walked to the fence, gone in the field, walked around the pyramid, come back, and we were standing at the car, and then none of us could believe that this pyramid was about 5-10 times the size. It was this huge, we were about quarter of a mile away from it, and it was now, I'd just say 10 times bigger than it was when we were standing at the fence. So this illusion that happens, it happens on land as well as in the sea.
Yeah, I mean, it does. Anybody that says that, you can just go out and see a boat go over the curve or whatever, that's the only thing the Globe ever say. And that's just totally incorrect. I mean, there's so much.
And, I've learned that mirroring effect is going to stop us knowing the truth, because it just blocks out everything, and the sun goes down disappears in that mirroring.
Yeah, I mean, if we gave let's say a degree, I mean, I wouldn't know for sure because I've not actually got to the calculations of this, but let's say it's 1 degree. Let's say at 1 degree, anything that falls within that 1 degree off 90-degree parallel is going to fall into an area that's susceptible to getting this inferior mirage. Now, every time I've gone out and done observations, I would say, every time, probably 98% of the times that I've gone out and done observations, when I'm looking at the furthest thing that I can see, it always falls into an inferior mirage. And it was understanding what the inferior mirage was, and that wasn't Earth curve, that was an atmospheric blockage, behind which you would have seen it had it not been for the inferior mirage. So the bottom of the object.
Yeah, this is what Wide Awake's been trying to tell everybody. But you get to that mirroring effect, which is wherever it is in front of you, it just blanks out everything.
Yep, and he's absolutely spot on with that. Absolutely spot on. 100% true. Everything is hidden behind that inferior mirage. That inferior mirage is the blockage. And you'll see that with the sunset. And also you get this Fresnel lens effect on the sun. So, I mean, I've got a couple of observations that for sure show the real sun as a very, very small, bright dot at the top of a very big bulbous Fresnel lens effect of the apparent sun, right? So the real sun is just going further away. And obviously the light of that,
is this to do with other dimensions as well? Because if you realize the sun is in another dimension, then we're not going to see it quite like it really is.
Oh, I don't know about that, to be fair. I'm very practical, and I just like to think that, until it's proven otherwise, that the sun may well be a real object. It's quite possible that but it's without actually saying that I've ever done any research on it.
Do you see Dave Marsh's one? I mean, Wide Awake's got that as well. No. When the sun is actually disappearing, it goes poof and it goes green. Poof,
oh yeah, the green smoke. Yeah, I mean, that's again, I mean, if I'd dedicated 5 years to understanding what the sun does, maybe I'd have the answers for that. But to be fair, I've not really looked into it. But this is what I would like for people to do
what's
is
your
to pick
take on
one
the fact that
subject. Just pick one subject and stick on it. You know, if one person picks one subject and dedicates their entire channel or research knowledge to that one subject, then you can get a lot of answers. But if you're bouncing around all the time, you're going to lose track of this, you're going to forget about that, and you're never really going to get down to the nitty gritty. So there's if there's people out there that are researching the sun, just research the sun and just stick to that and let other people do their research. And then
if you go to my channel, you'll realize that someone like Robert Forsh is into the sun. Really, he does a little bit of moon, he's into the sun. You've got Wide Awake, he's into a lot of things, but he likes the mirroring and he likes the sun. You've got people who are into certain things. Dave Marsh, he's into the moon. So it's great to have that cross section on the channel. But I was just asking you, if I talk to Wide Awake, he will say that the sun isn't in the clouds, but we take pictures of the sun in the cloud. What's your take on that?
Yeah, I don't think the sun is in the clouds. I think it's just an optical effect, to be fair. I've seen a couple myself where it looks like the sun is going into the clouds. But as I say, I think it's more of an optical effect. I think you have you've sort of stumped me on that, to be fair, by bringing that up. But I know that I've looked into it at some point in the past and was able to think, I think that's the cloud behind, one set of clouds behind the sun.
How far away do you think the sun is then? Just asking. I'm not
I've
trying
no
to.
idea. I don't have a model. It's not something that I sound very lax here when I say this, but I just don't. I don't know. I really don't know. The only thing I do know is where my feet are and everything that I can see flatness. So, and it doesn't match their model that says, because they have a model. So I can get my observations and say, this does not match your model. And they will turn around to me and say, well, yeah, that's being refracted around the curvature of the Earth. It's being loomed up, and that's why you're able to see it. And then when I ask them to demonstrate that or provide a practical experiment where they do the same thing over water, nobody can provide that. So as far as I'm concerned, my observations stand. I can see that, and they can't prove what they're telling me, that this is a loomed up object. They can't prove that, right? I can see what I can see. You can see what you can see. We all know we can see too far. And then they want us to look up and say, well, the moon or the stars or the sun, that can tell you what your feet are on. It's absurd. It really is. Look up to know where your feet are. Doesn't make any sense.
Because this whole thing that we're in, it's not just about what we're living on, it's what we're living in. This whole global system is just all wrong, all of it. Not just for what we're living on, it's everything.
Yeah, I mean, it looks like we're going into this Matrix kind of thing. There was a series called Black Mirror. I don't know if you've ever watched that. But wow, what an eye opener it was. I think it first came out around about 5 years ago, and then all the different things that they've put into this. If you're awake, you'll watch it awake, and you'll be like, wow, I can understand this, and this, and everything makes sense. If you're asleep and you watch it, you think, wow, what a wonderful sci-fi thing that was. Yeah, but then as we're awake, we can see these things being implemented, literally implemented. And then
because we're now in this, this video I was telling you about, Tucker Carlson, who's off Fox News, who kind of looks like he's in our favor. He's also saying that YouTube have taken posts down, the one with these two doctors talking. You're not allowed to say anything, you're not allowed to discuss anything anymore. So you have to get it out in the best way you can.
Yeah, but this coronavirus, I mean, to be fair, I mean, there's been a lot of back and forth with that on my channel. As you know, I mean, I've put a lot of community posts out and discussed it on many different videos with this coronavirus thing. And I think, regardless of whether you think that the coronavirus is a real thing or not, whether it's actually killing people or not, the actual effects of what they're saying in regards to this is very true. It's very real. I mean, the fact that we're in a lockdown.
We surrendered overnight, basically. We're prisoners in our own homes. We're on martial law, basically, and we surrendered overnight. And we didn't even.
I was telling people that this was coming. I was saying to them, this is very real. We are going to be in lockdown. We are going to be kept in our houses. We are going to, the supply lines are going to start failing. all this kind of thing. I talked about the stock markets, how they were going to be crashing, everything pre what actually happened, because I was able to do the research and see how they were actually.
I actually put it on my channel in about January when they were first mentioning. I said to everybody, is this real or not? I put it out as a question. Yeah. But I knew something was going to happen.
Well, real or not, the lockdown is real and the effects of that are real. And there's a lot of people in America that have lost their jobs. A huge amount of people in America.
I've lost my jobs. Yeah. But the thing is, I still went out. There was nobody there. There was nobody on the trains. There's no one at the stations.
Here in Blackpool, it seems, to be fair, it looks like it seems like it's going back to normal. I think there's a lot more traffic on the road.
Yeah, the last couple of days, there's a lot more traffic on the road. People are reporting people are going out, because when you get to the tube station, it told you when it ends. It ends tomorrow, supposedly.
We'll see. But yeah, I think this is going to be a couple of years. I don't think we did what they
wanted us to do. The biggest thing I find most shocking is that, we'll say 3-4 months ago, you had to wait 4-6 hours in casualty to see a doctor, and now you can walk straight in. I don't think, even though they told us to stay home, they were hoping that we'd still be going to the hospital.
Yeah, and people literally stopped going in. All the hypochondriacs that were going in for a little.
Yeah, that's exactly it. Hypochondriacs.
Yeah, the hypochondriacs that would have been going and filling up the A&E, they're not there anymore, and they're not going out to get injured anyway. Yeah,
but a lot of these people were going in. They go, "Oh, I've got a cold for a few hours. I need an antibiotic."
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I fully agree. They expected the hospital to be.
Or we're going to the hospital for very minor things. The hospitals were set up for. I know that they're there for everything, but surely some of this stuff we could have done ourselves. No, as hypochondriacs, we were going there.
Mm-hmm. I mean, I haven't been to hospital for 20 years.
Well, there's nobody there.
No.
I've been to a few myself.
They're empty here too. In fact, they're only admitting people with coronavirus. So, what can I say?
What did you make of yesterday then? The London Eye.
I haven't. To be honest, I've not seen it. So maybe you can tell me what's happened there.
Well, a group of people went. I think they were funneled a bit, and some of them were arrested. And there's about 5 policemen on every person. It's not very nice, really, those they arrested.
Right. Okay. So a bit of.
I can see in the videos is the police aren't handling this at all.
A bit heavy-handed by the police, then, yeah.
Yeah, they look in fear, and they're angry, and they're like ogres. But it should have been the police that were doing it. I don't think.
Well, it's the powers that they've been given. I mean, if you join the police force, you're of a certain mindset anyway, that you want to have power over people. That's the type of person you are. You want to do right from wrong, and you want to bring people to justice and things, but you have a very high moral, or what would appear to be a moral compass. And when you're given these more powers, I think, a lot of people, that it goes to their heads. So they've been given these powers of what they can detain people for, and this, that, and the other, and you must stay in your house. And they get,
I myself haven't seen any of that. I didn't go to the thing yesterday, but on the trains, even though in the station and on the BT Tower it says "Stay home, save lives, help the NHS." You hear it and see it. I just sort of put my head down and just take my little suitcase. Let's go.
Well,
let's just go through it. Get out of the station. There's nobody there.
Diddy Van, that's DIDIVAN. Diddy Van, she's got a YouTube channel anyway. She's been putting videos out about the overreactions of the police, etc., and what's going on in the UK.
I've been doing the same in America and England, because because I got into this case last year. When I look on my statistics, I'd say 2/3 of the watchers are actually American, and in our world, America runs everything. But you know what? Talking to them, they think we run everything. They believe we are running it, and we believe they're running it.
Well, clearly nobody's running it except for the elites. That's who's really running this.
Businesses, because Trump and the rest are just actors.
Yeah, I mean, this is a reset. Let's be honest. What's going on right now is an absolute reset.
They're not talking about the depression we're going to be in, and we're going to be in the same cars in 10 years' time that we've got now. We've lived in this affluent thing, they've made slaves to debt, and then they've chopped our legs off with the debt into a depression.
Yep.
I feel like we're being taken over.
Well, we are. You know, everything's going to go digital. I mean, they're even talking about kids from school or kids in the future actually being taught from home. So they would log on to the computer and log into class from home and
What is
attend
all this?
school.
Why do they want to keep the children at home?
Yeah, but
I mean, somebody was saying, Cece, he sits in his car and he travels around. He's an American. And I put his videos on Unscrambled and I have hangouts with him. But he's reckoning that he reckoned the other day on a video that they're frightened of the young generation because obviously they changed the algorithms. So we were lucky to wake up and see people, and we could see all the hoaxes and all that kind of stuff. But then YouTube's changed everything. So the younger generation can't find it that easy unless they know somebody or find a video or a channel. So the younger ones aren't just going to easily find it. Probably who's woken up has woken up now because they won't be able to find it to wake up.
Well, it's going to be, if they want people to just get their information from the internet, then it can be controlled what information they're, you know, that they're susceptible to.
I do find it a bit worrying that Google have taken over YouTube now, and Google are the globe.
Yeah, and you know, I mean, it's going to happen on YouTube. They're going to censor us there. They censor us anyway. But it'll be worse. It'll be even worse when they start schooling from home and stuff like this, because the kids will only be able to find the information they're told. And it's the not so socializing. It's the not socializing of the children. You know, I mean, you think about it. When you go to school, that's where you meet your friends for life. That's where you actually get to know how it is to speak to other kids and to interact with them. And
they're really trying to make a very separate society, aren't they, right now? I think separate.
But you put a kid,
and you know, like my own kids. Oh no, they know something's wrong, but oh no, we're in lockdown, and that's the way it's going to be. And I'm thinking, I've given birth to you. That's what I said to my son last week.
What sort of kid are you going to raise that hasn't socialized with the children? If they only ever get taught from home, or they have to log in from home to socialize online, I mean, how are they going to interact in reality with these people? You know, they'll be totally non-functional. They won't know how to behave around another child of their age. You know?
I mean, they've already made a very narcissistic, egotistical society as it is, because ultimately we cannot take any of this stuff with us. The most important thing is our consciousness, and that isn't materialistic.
Oh no, this is what we've got here is a skin suit, isn't it?
Yeah,
you know.
But it is hard once you get, you know, it's not like I have a little house, but do I want to, you know, it's my little house.
Yeah, but like I say, your body dies, but your mind goes on. So you've got to...
you know what? I've been quite abused in my life at one point, and actually, your sanity is worth more than a material thing.
Oh,
so absolutely. I already know that material things are not it; they're things that you have, and money should have just been the medium, but now the money is the god.
Yeah, I mean, well, look, get this. Yeah, when I attended high school for the first time, so you know, I came from a very poor family, a very poor council estate. I mean, the very first day that I started high school, I'd had to buy my school uniform from the second-hand hand-me-downs the week before the school opened. So they had an open day at the school where the kids from the year above had donated their clothing, and I had to go and get my school uniform from that had cigarette burns in and all sorts. I couldn't afford a bag.
You don't have that anymore.
No.
But anyway, carry on.
So my school bag was a carrier bag, right? Where everybody else had a brand new satchel or a brand new bag, all brand new clothing, brand new shoes and everything. Everything that I had was secondhand and had cigarette burns in. That's how poor I was when I grew up. And to be fair, you know, I mean, it was a horrible time because I was picked on and bullied for that. But do you know what?
I'm sorry.
Well, it's the truth. And yeah, but it made me stronger. You know, it made me the person I am now, because it realized that at the end of the day, you don't have to have money or materials to actually be a good person. And I've got still friends from school, you know, that I'm still friends with. And, you know, it is what it is. It makes you stronger. If you have these things, you know, you don't appreciate them. I appreciate everything I get now, every single thing that I get, everything that I work for. But to be fair, I still have those kind of notions of, you know, being very careful with what I spend money on. It's like I haven't bought any new clothes for 3 years. Get that, seriously, no word of a lie. 3 years. I just work and I just look after my family. I look after my son.
Have you managed to work in this lockdown, or are you not working at the moment?
Well, I've been able to do a little bit of work very recently because a job came in where there was nobody actually living at the address. So because there was nobody living there, I wasn't a threat to them. So being self-employed, and if you can go to your job and you're not actually you know, in a position where you sort of like potentially could give them the virus, then you can go and do it. So I was able to do that. So that's the only bit of work. Yeah. But yeah, I mean, like I say, you know, I've got my mum that I support, you know, and her carers, you know, the money for looking after a carer. So that's costing me an arm and a leg, you know, just to find the additional funds to look after her because she has motor neuron disease, you see.
Oh,
so she needs 24-hour care. So then I've got to look after my son, my ex.
Everybody just woke up and realised that we've all got problems and issues.
Yeah. And I don't honestly, it doesn't bother me as long as I've got some food on the table and you know, a paintbrush to go to work with.
That was really weird the other day. I know you won't mind, Ranty. I was talking to you and you said, well, I've got to go now because I'm dyeing my girlfriend's hair.
Yeah, that's another one. Yeah. Lockdown barber. You know, I'm a lockdown barber. But hey ho.
You've changed profession.
Exactly, yeah. And it's like a little mini paintbrush in it that you just get at the roots and stuff. But the roots had grown quite long. They were about bloody 3 inches long.
Hey, you wouldn't dye my hair, would you? My daughter, my bathroom gets dye all over it when my daughter does my hair, and I'm like, oh, look, you've got dye everywhere.
I've done a really good job, actually, I have to say. You know.
Yeah, well done.
Yeah, so that saves her a bunch of money, but you can't get your hairdresser around at any time now, so, you know.
I know they're going to make us into heathens because no one's been able to have their hair cut.
Oh no, she wasn't happy because you know, as I say, the roots had grown so long, and I kept saying to her, you need to get these done, eventually, like, you're gonna have to do it now, you're gonna have to do it. Okay. I'll have a go. Yeah, I did a good job.
Well done there. So what do you think's going to happen then to us coming out of this then, Ranty?
This is the start. I mean, anybody that thinks that we're coming out of anything.
Because I think this is a prelude for something else.
Yeah, well, we're not coming out of anything. This is literally the start. This is the start of probably a multi-year plan that they've got ready to go. So they're going to do things like.
The thing is, Ranty, even though they've tried to sort of suppress all the truth, a lot of people know there's something wrong.
Yeah, I think people are waking up to that too. You know, I think they are waking up to it slowly, and whether they'll be able to implement it. I mean, I think if they tried to implement this maybe 20 years ago or 18 years ago after 9/11 or something like that, before it became too well known about what happened with 9/11, I think if they'd have done it back then, what they're trying to do now, then they might have got away with it.
I find really incredible. It happened 9/11 time, and it was passed by Obama about 2014 that the media can lie to us. So, you know, when you watch it, I used to watch it, and I was so horrified with the Gulf Wars. But now I think, that was made for me.
Yeah, it's legal or whatever. It's allowed for them to lie to you if it's in the public interest. And it's like, that's just, the news is supposed to be the news. You shouldn't have fake news, you know, just be honest.
Yeah, I found someone, right? I can't think of her name right now. And I started watching her for years. I kept her in the back of my mind that I'd seen her talking and standing up and supposedly trying to take on CNN. But now, with this open mind and the fact that I know a lot more, I'm looking at it and I'm thinking, what the hell is she saying? She's saying, don't do this. But then she turns around and says, yeah, but the rest are a load of rubbish. So yeah, go for them. And what it realised was she was another actress. She was another one put in there. She's just another actress, just another one playing her little part.
Well, going back to your original question, which was where do I think this is going? I think ultimately this is going to end up in a world war. I'll be honest.
Yeah, I felt that, or the fact that the history books will say that they'll change it. You know, we were queuing for toilet paper, they'll say we're queuing for food, so they're lying, but they're not lying.
Well, there will be a food
it's commodities for a home.
No, there will be a food shortage for sure. There will be a food shortage. It's inevitable. There's no way of not having that food shortage. It will come because there's nobody been out to pick the crops. All the crops are dying in the field.
If most people realise that, they're different countries, but these countries all have HARP. There's all these things going on. They're all connected. They all work together. You know, I've looked at footage and it's supposed to have been Putin and Trump. Well, you can see through them and they're glitching. None of these, they've made it all. These people weren't standing together, but they're all in it together.
Well, it's going to be, ultimately, they're going to starve us. they're going to weaken our resolve. People will be out of jobs. The recession will bite really hard. A lot of people will really, really struggle and will want someone to blame. And you can already see that the blame is being laid firmly at China's doorstep. And it's not just here in the UK or in America, but it's all over. Everybody wants a piece of China right now. And, you know, you go after China,
I know
you
it's
go
a bit
after
weird.
Russia as
I
well.
saw a post. It said basically China have sort of survived everything. Their economy didn't really get affected. They're starting to make all the goods again, and you're like, wow. But again, you just don't know how much they're going to push now to make it all look like it's China. But you know what? There are many companies not taking China. They're taking America to court, unless that was a load of rubbish. You know, I saw that post. It was America that was being taken to court.
Probably, but you got to look at what China's doing with its navy and everything, and how they're expanding, how quickly they're building their aircrafts, etc. I mean, they're getting ready.
They're just one of the game. They're part of the game.
Well, you say it's a game, but there's going to be real people dying. I mean, Agenda 21
Yeah,
wasn't
but
just an
we're
agenda.
what do you call it? We're collateral. It doesn't matter about us.
Yeah, I know that, but what I'm saying is Agenda 21 is an agenda, and they will make sure that it comes to fruition. I mean, they want the population to be under 500 million.
So we don't hate Russia now. We hate China instead.
Well, Russia's been taken off the table for the time being, but they're just another communist country, aren't they? And they're associated and have alliances with Russia. So, in effect,
But you know how we've been hearing all those years about them telling us how bad it is and how they treat the Russians. When you actually look at what they've done to us and the lie that we're in right now, they've done the same to us. They just did it slightly differently. That's all.
Yeah, well, look at what China do. I mean, look at all the people who've got in concentration camps over there. Look at the harvesting of human organs that they do of the prisoners over there, and they sell them on the market.
Do you think all of that is real, or do you think that's propaganda again?
That's real. I think there's 3 million people they have in concentration camps, and they're Muslims over there that are in these concentration camps. And then they're also, I think they call them the Uyghurs or something. And then you've got the forced.
Mind you, we have something just as bad in the West or America. It's called FEMA. You know, each country has its thing.
There's a lot of bad that goes on that they don't want the people. You know, I mean, if you'd have asked me a year ago, did I know that they had prisoners in concentration camps in China for just for being Muslim, I would have said, don't be silly. You know, I wouldn't have believed it. I wouldn't have believed that they were actually going to cut people open and take their organs out and sell them to other people, you know, richer people for money. I didn't think that was a trade over there, but it is, you know, and we're just too fixated on one thing after another to realize all the abuses that are happening worldwide. And you've got to understand that there's also these uprisings that are happening all over. Everybody seems to be waking up in their own individual country and rebelling. And the best way to control that,
yeah, and the thing is, they're not reporting it correctly, are they?
Yeah.
They're just making fake news for us. That's the sad bit.
Yeah,
you know, like I'm saying, in America, they think we run everything. They do. That's all they tell me. But, you know, I have to say, no, you run everything. You know, because that's the way it's portrayed here.
Well, yeah, we are closely linked. I mean, you can't deny that, you know, America and Britain are very, very closely tied. I mean,
just something's happening though, because I was out in London, and even though there's a lockdown, they were still laying loads of cables, right? And I heard Boris talk the other day, and it's about the fact that we have we're a very tech country now, and a lot of it's computers. But I also know that they're trying to make a heart, and you know, an internet heart. We're supposed to be all linked up to it. So, you know, that's what's happening in London then?
It's going to happen all over the world. You know, I mean, it's not just going to happen here in the UK. I mean, they want us all linked. They want us all on this matrix, like I was trying to explain before. They're trying to create the matrix. The film The Matrix just gave us an idea, you know, plugging us into the
Well, it's all of them,
matrix.
isn't it? It's Total Recall, Space Odyssey, The Truman Family. You've got that film. When you put them all together, we're living in all of that put together.
And also, they had this one particular episode on Black Mirror, and I think it was called Nosedive. Yes, it was. It was called Nosedive. And what it was this woman who wanted to better herself. She wanted to have a better house or a better credit score or something like that. Now, they had this app on her phone, and she's rated. It's linked to her phone, and she has a profile. And the individuals, every single person in the world also has a phone. And if you do a good deed for somebody, they give you a 5-star, they mark you up. if you do something average, they'll give you a medium score, and everybody's basically sort of profiling you and giving you a score for everything you do, even just walking down the street, how you walk or anything like this. So it was a very weird thing that she had like a 4.5 or something rating out of 5, which was almost good enough to get this place that she wanted. And then she had this really bad day, and one thing went from bad to worse to worse to worse to worse, and she did everything wrong, and everybody profiled her, and her score dropped to around about 1, and she literally lost everything. So it was all to do with what buses you could get on, what house you could get, what restaurants you could eat in, all down to this social profiling. Now,
Wow.
if you watch what happens in China, they have this score over there, and it's basically a very similar thing, but it's the government that marks you on your social score, what buses you can get on, what trains you can get on, what planes you can fly on. So it is already happening in China. But I always thought to myself, well, how would they implement that here in the UK or anywhere, this profiling where one person profiles another? Well, look at what happened in the coronavirus at its peak, when people were out and about, let's say. People were making comments about them being out and about. My missus put a post out because we went for a walk, and you're only allowed out for an hour each day, apparently. So we went out, and she just happened to put on the post, we've been out for 2 hours, and we put all these beautiful images up about walking around the park, right? The only comments from the people in the chat and the Facebook post were, "You were out for 2 hours, shame on you. You should have only been out for an hour." And it was comment after comment of people slagging us off for being out.
Do you know something? I have to tell you
now, that
this.
was social profiling, right? Now, if they could have scored us, as a human, if we were on that same app, right, and they could have profiled us, they would have all scored us like a 0.
Yeah. Can I tell you something else, Ranty? It's by accident, because a lot of where I am is because it came into my own inbox on YouTube, but oh my goodness, I just suddenly thought about something else. What were you talking about? I'm sorry.
We're talking about the social profiling, about the
oh
yeah, go on.
This is what they've done. They've made people believe something's not true, and I noticed, that's it. Oh gosh, I've got it now. This NASA thing came in, and what it was about NASA keeping their promise, and I didn't notice it to start with. It was actually when I got to the end of the video, and it was talking about how NASA want to take over the Earth. They want to do local government, they want to do flights, they want to do local government, and the list goes on. And in my mind, I'm thinking, well, you haven't even been to the moon, you want to take over here. But then suddenly these words came up, and they're into cognitive engineering. You should look that one up. Cognitive engineering. And then I thought about it, and they were going, NASA keeping their promise. And my video said, well, maybe they're not breaking their promise, because it depends what they promised and who they promised it to. Just because we see these words up doesn't mean they're for us.
Yeah.
They're just, everything's in code. Cognitive engineering, which is all about controlling people.
Yeah, well, they're doing
That's
it already.
NASA.
We as humans, you wouldn't think that you would automatically grass your neighbour up or anything like that, but this is essentially what they've got the people to do. You actually, if you don't go out and you clap at 8 o'clock on a Thursday, and you stand at your front door and bang the drums and clap your hands.
Oh my goodness, I've opened the window and said, it's all fake. What are you doing? It's fake.
Yeah, but 90% of the street are out clapping like lunatics and banging the drums, right? And those people that don't go out.
Hello? Oh, we've just lost Ranty. I'll just get him back. Very interesting, isn't it? There we were in full force about that very subject, and Ranty has disappeared. I'm waiting for him to come back. Hey, we've got Ranty back. We had to start a new hangout. Thanks, Google.
They cut me off. They literally cut me off midstream. Can you believe it? It's worse. It just said the video call has ended. It literally just stopped me in my tracks.
I was still on there. I don't get that, but they obviously wanted to cut the conversation. But you were saying.
I was saying, yeah. What was I saying?
You were talking more about how people were being monitored and what it did to their lives, actually.
Yeah,
And I was trying to say, yeah, and you were also bringing up that in this thing we're in now, that that person had gone out you'd gone out for 2 hours and people were putting
yeah.
terrible comments.
Well, it's just you know. I mean, if you look at it this way, I always thought, how would you get your neighbour to behave that way? How would you get your neighbour to to stand at the front door and clap? You know,
I know how
for
they do it, because yesterday my neighbours were out on the street, right, and it was VE Day, and he's been a soldier, and he's very, into the British Legion and the whole thing. And I went to the window, I said, Colin, and he looked at me with distaste. Well, I'm all right out here. And I was going, no, it's good. I'm really happy you're out there. And I'm not really for the subject, but I'm just glad that, people were outside sitting together,
yeah. Well, the thing
It
was,
wasn't,
you
yeah.
get profiled if you don't go to your door. If you don't go to your door and clap, you're now the odd one out. You're now the one that's not clapping for the NHS. You're the one that's got an issue with the NHS. You are now a troublemaker. Your house is now looked upon and looked down upon because you're not standing with the rest of them and clapping at the front door. So they are profiling you for sure. I mean, it
Do you
really
know
is.
what?
I mean,
It only lasts a few minutes, but I hate it.
it does, but like I say, they profile you for that, and the repercussions of that going
I
forward when all
filmed
of
it.
this finished.
Filmed it a couple of times. What it is say people aren't aware of it, then they hear the clapping, and then they all start coming out, and then the clap goes on even longer because everybody else is starting to clap. And then they start banging their pans, and I'm like, oh, don't you realise? Just go to a hospital. There's no one there. I think it's not that they're clapping, right? Because our national health does need a clap, yeah, especially the nurses, which a lot has been put on them. But
right.
it's why they're clapping. They believe they're clapping because the national health is saving everybody right now from this planademic. But
it's forced clapping, and you're clapping because you have been told to stay indoors. You are clapping the governments because you've been put in lockdown. It's so insane. It's like, you're clapping for this, and
listen,
it's like,
I've broken down Boris. I'm just so horrified at this piece of footage. So outside 10 Downing Street is a width of 2 cars, right? And a lot of them go into the road just outside the door of 10 Downing Street and then make their speeches. But what it was is he got in a momentous 80-seat majority. So, he's talking there. And what it is there's a news reporter standing next to the camera. And when you look at Boris, he's the size of a Monopoly piece on a game board. He's tiny. He looks like he's in a field. It's only 2 car widths. If I walk 2 car widths today, I suddenly don't disappear down to the size of a baby. And also the background was moving very weirdly because the whole thing's a set or a computer thing. And that to me, we're being run by some computer games.
Yeah.
These people made these programs months ago. You know what I mean? This whole thing they're months ahead of us. But I am quite shocked that the community itself, if we've been talking about it, we get here and a lot of people don't know what to do, don't know what to say. Everybody's like, what the hell's happening?
Well, I think you've just got to base it on what we already knew. We knew that they had these agendas in place. We knew that they were trying to implement this one world currency. We knew they were trying to do the forced vaccinations.
One world order.
To be honest, the one world order and all of this, they can bring about all of this on the back of this, and they'll see how compliant each country is and where the troublemakers are by who steps out of line, who talks out of line. This has just been a massive,
well, the person that set up this whole thing where we're supposed to be quarantined in our own homes, he broke the laws. They had to sack him. The person who made the law.
And the one in Scotland, the lady in Scotland that was the chief medical officer up there, she did it 2 weeks running. She went and stayed in her lodge outside of Edinburgh somewhere, like an hour's drive away. And then she's like, "Oh, I am sorry. Yeah, one rule for one and one rule for another." But yeah, they got rid of her as well.
Culls going on, to be honest. Somehow,
the elites are getting out, aren't they? They're bugging out. The elites are bugging out. All the CEOs have left all the places.
Yeah, you know what though? That but what it is they're going to tell us the baddies have gone, but the baddies will still be there.
Oh, of course they are. Listen, I think they've gone. I think personally they've gone to the places we can't go. 60 degrees south latitude or whatever, and I think that's where they've gone. They've gone to the outer regions, beyond where we're allowed to go. Beyond Antarctica.
Something else I found out as well, Ranty. It's by accident. I was watching about Queen Elizabeth I, because it's very interesting. Because in our history, but we know it's all a load of rubbish. Edward IV comes behind Henry VII, then it's Henry VIII, then it's Elizabeth I. But Henry IV was, what do you call it? I hate using that word, but he was born. His mother, he was not the king's son, so
Right.
he was illegitimate. He never should have come to the throne, and the real king lives in Australia right now. How the hell? Anyway, I was looking at it, and it came up with Elizabeth I with these Tartaria maps. And on it, you can see it's the 4 rivers, but they show Greenland is only the size of the UK. So what they've done is they've included the 4 rivers and Greenland, because we never go to the 4 rivers because it'll be ice and snow and everything. So whatever we see is the people who live on this island below it, but they've now included that all. So the North Pole is in what we call Greenland.
Quite possible.
You put the 4 rivers and Greenland together, it's exactly the same shape as what they're showing us Greenland is today. And they've got Greenland as the size of America and Canada together. And on a news thing, this news, because Trump wants to buy Greenland, or is interested in buying it, they said it's 7 times the size of the UK, but on the Tartaria maps, it's about the same size as the UK, the real Greenland.
Who knows? We haven't got the capabilities to go and check it out for ourselves, have we, really?
You can't go and check it out, but I do think instead of taking people down to Antarctica, they take them there.
I mean, it's quite possible. I mean, I don't know. I just don't know what sort of place we live on. Who knows? It could be hollow for all we know, and there could be another land beneath us for all we know. We just don't know. I do believe, though, that there's outer regions.
Though, it does look like backwards and forwards goes only so far, but when it pans to the left and it pans to the right, you can go on for almost ever. It's like we're living on a ruler, to be honest, when they show us from the high altitude balloons, but we don't have any proof.
Well, there'll always be a convergence. That's always going to happen. Even if you were looking into infinity.
We can't. And the other thing that really amazed me on my journey was that, when those high altitude balloons are going up, when it's in the blue sky, everything's blue, but it goes above the blue sky. The camera looks down and there is no blue sky. You can just see everything reflecting. I was just like, there's no blue sky at all. When he looks down, there's no blue. It's just the land. So we just don't know what we're living on, where we are, the whole thing, really.
Well, all I would say to people right now, the main thing you've got to think about is look after yourself, prepare for the food shortages, because I truly believe that we are going to go into a food shortage position, and I think that
it's a forced one, isn't it? It's been made to happen. It wasn't really there, but it's been made to happen.
But it has to happen now. There's no escaping that. There's too many dominoes been knocked down in that chain and that supply line.
You know what?
For it not to happen anymore.
This guy, Tucker Carlson off the news, Fox News. He was talking about this one lady in her county. Nothing's ever going back the way it was ever. So how do you get people to church or sports or anything? How are they going to reopen things up if it's never going to change?
Exactly. Well, make your own food. That's what I would say. Go out and get some potatoes, dig some potatoes in your garden if you've got space. If not, get some pots. You can live quite a while on a good old bit of potato, and some canned meats. Get some canned meats in. Sort of like prepare yourself just in case that you do end up in a situation where your food is running out, or the cost of food has gone so high that the monetary value is very small in comparison to what you can actually afford to buy. Because I think that's what's coming, and I think what will happen then is they'll do this reset, this sort of like monetary reset, maybe a war. Who knows? It's a very uncertain time, but I do think that this is just the beginning. I don't think this is the end.
Words uncertain time, and they love that, and they're going to play on that.
Mm-hmm. Well, I see it too. I think. Well, I think they're certain about where they want this to go, but we're uncertain. But we've just got to prepare, for it
Let's
because
just hope that
they have
people
the
wake up
agendas.
enough. Let's just
Yeah.
hope that they're out there wake up enough and smell the rat. Because I if I could have obviously last year when the election was on, if there was a little thing there that said, I want to vote, but I'm not voting for them, I would have voted. But even if you put that, they would have manipulated it. Because they already did, because Boris got in on an 80-seat majority, but nothing that I saw on the internet showed he did. Nothing. And they made his victory day, they made that months ago.
Yeah, I mean, to be fair, that all could be scripted,
It's all scripted, it's all part of the game. That's all I see is everybody's lying, everybody's deep faking. It's just disgusting.
Well,
What do you make of Tartaria then? Just asking.
Well, before we get to that, I just wanted to say that the European sort of trial, so to speak, about how they would see this as a future for a one world government sort of thing. This is like the, sort of like the test run. Let's see how Europe works out. It didn't work out,
Yeah, we haven't done what we were supposed to do.
Yeah, and I think they now know that. They know that they can't bring a one world government in at this moment in the current status that it's in, because they tried to implement it when obviously it was like 20 years after the World War, and people were getting back on the feet. You had the swinging 60s, everyone was enjoying life. They didn't want to go into there was no hardship
they have to
there.
Terrify everybody with nuclear power instead.
Yeah, well, I think reality is good. Well, I say things have moved on. And I think that if they were to starve all the world and to make them really want to sort of come together and work together, I mean, that's what they're doing basically. They're shutting things down so that they can create hardships.
That is a bit I don't think people realise. Say it did happen. Say this whole thing had happened. They would have been totally different. You'd have seen them making mistakes. They would have been flustered. There would have been all these things going on which we don't see. It's all scripted.
Tartaria though, yeah, I mean, there's definitely been, if you've got an opportunity to get Martin Leakby on the show, he'll tell you all about that. And
yeah, we did. Our last hangout though, for some reason the recorder didn't record him, but when he was talking on another one, I had Santos Bonacci and I had Martin, and it was like someone was running a marble round a glass. Only them. So every time they talked, this thing was swirling around. The first time with Santos, I thought, can't he hear it? But he couldn't. It was not his fault. Yeah, I love Martin. Martin's a really great guy. I love him. Martin Leakey.
If you want to know anything about, Tartaria or anything like that, he's the guy to go to. And you don't only have to listen to a few of his streams to know that he's done a lot of research on this. He has the material, he has the almanac.
I think what he's made me realise when I've watched some of his things, especially about this earthquake of San Francisco at the turn of 1908 or something, that was just them demolishing a town so they could build their new one. And they were getting rid of all these Tartaria buildings to do it. When he looked at it, it was like, why is all that piping there? Why is, he said, this looks like it's, it doesn't look like an earthquake. It looks like a war.
Exactly.
He's brilliant, Martin.
Right, should we wrap up? I'm going to get my dinner.
Yeah, we've been going for an hour. Really nice to chat with you, Ranty. Thank you very much for coming on this hangout. And very practical advice you gave there.
Yep. Like I say, just prepare yourself. If the worst never happens and you've bought a few extra groceries in, long life groceries, some rice and some tinned meats and stuff, then what have you? They did it really well,
didn't they? Because self-isolating means we don't go out, and so they did this really well, this pandemic. They did it really well because we just surrendered overnight.
Well, if you're not interacting and contact with other people, you're not actually sharing.
Yeah, they want you looking at the television. They want you looking.
Well, no, not just that. I mean, from a perspective of how our bodies work, we need to have contact with
locking
other
us down
germs so that we
makes
can
it
have
worse.
a resistance. Yeah, we have a resistance to it. And if you're told not to interact with other people, bump into them, or hang out down the pub with them, you're not going to get that little
I know they've
little
taken,
bit of a germ.
I don't know if you're into it, but they've taken sports away. A lot of men love sport, whatever it is, golf, football, whichever, all of them.
Yeah,
So
and then
taking
the
that
mental
away,
health issues that go along with it, the mental health of being locked in, the not being able to socialize with your friends, not being able to go and see your family,
being attacked when you go out.
Yeah, well, that's more to the loneliness side of thing. The mental. I think there's going to be a lot of fallout from this.
It was great in a way. I mean, it's taught me a few things. Like, we're a bunch of hypochondriacs. That's one thing.
Yep.
Maybe you don't agree with this one, but I was quite ill a few years ago, and it was a 1-1 doctor. So that's on a telephone number that actually sorted my life out quite quickly. And it would have taken days to do it for the doctor. And that 1-1 doctor could see the blood test that I'd had that day. Now, one of the things might be that we don't have surgeries anymore, and that the doctors are calling you. I actually think that's a much better solution, because that 1-1 doctor told me I was seriously ill and I needed to go to hospital straight away. But if I'd gone the National Health way, like that way, to the doctors, it would have taken me a few more days. I might have died. So I actually think that that's a good thing. And so there are a few good things out of this, but the majority of it, like 98%, is just awful.
Definitely.
To do this to the people, they all need to go to prison, as far as I'm concerned.
Right, well, as I say, thanks for having me, and I'll come back.
Yeah, and thank you very much for all your research in that. When you're talking, you sound like a scientist. I know we don't, in there, but you sound like a scientist.
I feel like I've somewhat become a bit of a scientist on just one particular topic. There's a lot of things I don't know about, and I'll just openly hold my hands up and say I don't really know anything about that. But if you want to talk about optics or anything like that, then yeah, I'll have a debate with you.
Great. Well, there you go then. Ranty's words. Ranty, we'll say goodbye when I've pressed the button, but for this hangout, obviously, thank you very much, Ranty. And thank you very much, chat room.
Bye-bye, everyone. See you later.